International trade, Colombia-Asia. Relevant aspects and the negotiation with Asia, culture and protocols. Currently, we live in a globalized world where the generalized opening of the markets of goods and capital, the increasing privatization of economic sectors, the rise of multinational companies, the increase of competition and access to international markets, as well as the cultural exchange, are the order of the day negotiation and business relationships. The aspects and characteristics of an international negotiation can range from the exchange of business cards, the correct use of habitual schedules in each country, the norm of courtesy, the techniques of or strategies of negotiation, the verbal communication, the custom or rituals, the non-verbal communication, the protocol of the table, the institutional of corporate gift, and a series of habitual norms. Going into the subject of the protocols with Asia, we must understand that this region of the world is important because of several factors. Demography, only between China and India have 40% of the world population. The economy, according to the IMF, China ranks first in the world economy with a GDP in that year of more than $20,000 billion, and India for 2017 was already the third place with GDP of over $9,000 billion. It is estimated by the year 2050 the total economy of Asia will be more than half of entire planet. Geopolitics. Today in Asia, the main trade routes converge, marking the political and security agenda. It has nuclear powers, and with much of the largest armies in the world, especially those of China and India, in addition to Russia in its Asian territory. China stands out among all the power of the Asia-Pacific region. This nation is the greatest actor in the history of humanity. It was historically and is in the current period. Although the world hegemony is still in the hands of the United States of North America, this nation is considered in main affected by the incipient Chinese power. Today, Beijing and Washington begin to replace the previously rivalry of the Cold War between Moscow and the US capital. Background. For some years now, Colombia has been in charge of opening its doors to the foreign market and sending new national proposals. Despite the efforts made, the Asian territory is still far from having a large incursion by the Colombian market with respect to other Latin American countries and development of the local economies or behavior. According to the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, the current FTA agreements that the country presents at the international level are the following. As can be seen in illustration 1, today the country has only signed a free trade agreement with the Asian region, with the country benefiting South Korea. This treaty was signed on February 21, 2013 in Seoul, Korea. On other hand, the ongoing negotiations that are taking place to date are. For this case, if the Asian region is taken into account, the country of Turkey, Japan, Singapore, and some Thai SA countries will allow Colombia to have a greater global reach to export their products. However, in the field of investment, international agreements include other countries with robust economies that have ventured into exploring the Latin American market. As can be seen, although the national government has made great efforts to allow the exchange of goods and services in the Eastern Bloc, the possibilities of breaking into force have been limited by the latter of treaties that allow free bicultural transaction. Which through the FTA signed with South Korea and the investment treaties with China, India, and Japan have made a contribution to the Colombian economy, there are some factors that have held back the development of economic exchange between the two regions. China. This agreement stipulates the donation by China's government of the sum of 50 million yuan in order to carry out execution of projects that string the process carried out by the entities of the national order. According to the Colombian Chancellery, regarding economic matters, Colombia is already in search of China's investment. With the aforementioned investment, the Colombian government presents China as second foreign only in economic terms. This fact is confirmed in the data delivered by the OAC for the country in the year 2017. According to the Colombian Foreign Ministry, which is explained by the products of manufacturers and clothing, whose exports increased by 4.2% and 28.4% respectively. In addition, opportunities have been detected in agricultural, agro-industrial, livestock, and chemical sector. Among the main export products to China are mineral foods, mineral oils, iron, steel, copper, leather, chemical and organic products, coffee, animal fats and oils, wood, charcoal, and wood manufacturers. Is an analysis conducted by Wu Guping, a professor at the Institute Latin American Studies of China's Academy of Social Science, for the Colombian economy to have a greater presence in the Asian country, it's necessary to diversify the products offered because the main ones exports are based on oil, decreasing the value of their export in comparison with other countries in the region, such as Chile, Mexico, and Peru, which have already expanded the export of them. For Wu, an exportable basket should start with simple tariffs, such as fruit, juice, and other processed products, without neglecting the quality of them. Export opportunities are increasing. This is because China no longer wants to have manufacturing production is main source income, but wants to become a center of innovation for which foreign partners need to safely the growing demand, a fact that the Colombian government must take advantage of and align with the expansion plans presented previously. Japan. According to the newspaper El Nuevo Siglo, Colombia has been cooperating with Japan since 1976, who has been the oldest only in Asia Pacific. Since then, Japan has focused on supporting the national government in science and technology economic growth with equity, infrastructure for education, the environment, and natural disasters. By May 2018, Japan has provided approximately $1,000 million in resources to the country. 5,000 Colombian officials have been trained and 600 volunteer experts have been sent to the national territory to transfer knowledge on different topics, and a fact that present an imbalance to the trade balance on the part from Colombia to that country. Currently, three projects have been signed for the provision and adaptation of facilities in the departments of La Guajira and Norte de Santander, financed through the Japanese cooperation, share non-reimbursable financial assistance for community projects of human security Kusanon. South Korea. According to the Colombian Foreign Ministry, although Colombia's trade and economic relations with South Korea have been characterized by increasing trade, the trade balance has traditionally been in deficit, even with the gap between exports and imports has closed in recent years. Choose the main points of the free trade agreement between Colombia and South Korea, an agreement signed 2013, while a 5 reform shows South Korean investment in Colombia. Within the Futurexpo Naranja Conference, organized by Pro-Colombia in the city of Bogota, D.C. on March 15, 2019, interesting data was present from some sectors that they are being potential in the relation with the Asian continent, among which if what was remarked to love following. Colombia is making international efforts to foster relations in 15 countries to promote the graphic and editorial sector is also linked as Asia and IRIS negotiation. In the animation sector that involves second and third in development, there Colombia is exporting products to Korea and China. In the fashion and design sector, we are currently exporting swimwear to Asia, and we also occupy a prestigious place in production and exports of girdles and control garments with the first place.
The main Latin American countries have signed investment treaties with countries in the Pacific Basin since 1991. Only a few years ago, Colombia signed a trade agreement with Korea, which is why it is said that once again the country is late for the meeting between the two countries. This timeline okay. This timeline expose what nations have signed treaties with Asian nations in recent years. Colombia is not present here. The trade balance of Colombia with the countries of the Pacific Basin is quite deficient and is based on the export of raw materials and the energy mining sector with low added value and minimal transformations, sectors with low employment generation and little integration with other productive sectors. Some non-traditional industrial sectors are opening space for export to the east, but the oil sector is the main line of Colombian exports, which is not sustainable over time because there are no new large deposits that can meet the growing demand. Here is exposed that oil derivatives is the best sector of exports from Colombia to the east. Ferronickel also shows great participation in Colombian exports to Asia, which is multinational of Australian origin. Coffee has also shown a positive trend in terms of sales growth. China has become in recent years the main supplier of products imported by Colombia from the Pacific Basin, followed a long way by Japan and Korea. Sarkar has defined the term negotiation as the process of interactions conceived involving two individuals or groups trying to achieve a joint agreement about different needs or ideas. Importability. Speaking of culture, is complex as well, be different from each region or country. Also, within the same country may be different cultures or groups. Asia is no exception. Hosman conducted a comparative study to the management styles of managers from Singapore, China, Malaysia, and India, concluding that the culture is related to the style to negotiate. In Asia, exist different religions like Confucianism, that religion refuse stability of society, family harmony, virtuous behavior towards others, control and personal control, respect for traditions, and reciprocity of favors. Taoism is second religion, and its origin is in the yin and yang, and harmonious world. If we refer to passivity, to do nothing. Art of war is another aspect. The key is used to plan, looking for strategies that both tactics and skills. In the field of business is even seen as a battlefield. An example that is handled in this policy is hide a knife in the smile. Some aspects of cultural between ASEAN countries and Colombia, um, uh, it's here. ASEAN countries, your social behavior is collectivism. In Colombia, predominant individualism. In Asian countries, high distance of power is present. In Colombia, low distance of power is present. In Asian countries, avoid the insecure. In Colombia, have little concern for the insecure. In Asian countries, uh, have marked difference between genders. In Colombia, search gender balance. In Asian countries, in time management exists long-term orientation. In Colombia, time is orientated to short-term. With Japanese, some aspects in negotiations are the use of time. They are so values of the time. Personal relationships are fundamental. The communication is serious and formal. The agreements are verbal, and decision-making processes made by the person of higher hierarchy. In cultural aspects, the negotiations take special care in 3 points when you make business abroad, including careful of the pace of negotiations, the dynamics of personal relationships, and the depth of the presentation.
These approaches can be given in a more fluid way by using protocols that correspond to the skill with which we come at a legitimate phase or situation, for this case of cultural and commercial nature. Protocols should be based on culture understood as the way people see the world through models and mental patterns, which are formed and the brain fed by environment, including values and customs, which shown by contrast within the commercial relationships. Therefore, once we apply protocols and ceremonies, it can be useful to make a backup copy and try to see ourselves and others at distance so that the patterns and habits that define what is normal in the negotiation can be examined by what they are. The systematic mechanisms can help negotiators and mediators prepare for negotiation by raising the kinds of difference that occur between cultures and pointing out the possible pitfalls of the lack of attention to cultural factors. They should be taken as starting points and support mechanisms rather than definite descriptions, since cultural groups are too diverse and changing contexts are too influential to be described in a unique and totally reliable way. About the position of Colombia, his great commitment is focused on the Pacific Alliance, also made up of Chile, Peru, and Mexico, seeking that through the union these countries can be reached and grow increasingly in the Asian markets, where these nations already have friendly relationships. Asia is a great challenge for Colombian businessmen who want to export their products to choose countries that, because of the due distance, different cultures, and also because of their language, are shown as impossible. However, the possibilities are open and shows this is Chile, which took on the risk, and today's sports have as their main destination that continent. The main obstacles for a Colombian businessman is the fear of taking the risk of reaching an unknown continent. However, the dynamics of countries such as China, Japan, and Korea added to the Colombian export potential in alliance can have good results. Asia has a great diversity of cultures, not only between countries, but between regions, guiding that they have different customs affected by history, ethnic groups, family, religion, gastronomy, and homeland. Just as there are common features, it's also necessary to know the particularities. It's a culture based on respect for dignity, age, and heritage, with great value for honor and reputation family. Always most strictly comply with punctuality and take into account with respect to the language the silence are important, as well the use of titles of offices and profession. The corporal expression is very soft, always looking to use the palm of the hands, with ever indicating with the fingers. In Asia, it is usually negotiated in a group, being a team led by some of higher rank, who will be the one who makes the final decision and who shall focus the negotiation proposal. The greeting is usually of handshake for people of the same sex. However, is emphasized that you cannot generate contact with the opposite sex, for which inclination is used as reverence at the time of the greeting. As far as clothing is concerned, the traditional custom is nowadays used speciality. It is about approach with governmental entities for other scenarios ideally to use formal bit-like suites is meeting as held in Asia territory. During the preparation process before interacting business matter, the conversation should revolve around neutral topics without involving comments on religion, politics, or sports. You can talk about culture, gastronomy, history, and geography. In general, Asian about immediate positive or negative response. Take a prudential time to think, and business closures usually occur as a meal. Negative results will usually be reported in writing. There may be an invitation in home of, of one of the household to must be considered that the shoes are not used in the environment. So especially care must be taken with the socks, which can show relevant aspect of the person. The following fundamental aspect must be considered and away in each country. India, customer service and technical assistance are factors that influence with making decisions. The atmosphere in the meetings is formal. For this culture, the verbal comment is not significant. That is, with the agreement are expressed in detailed writings. The use of memorandum of understand is common. Taiwan. The basis for doing business in Taiwan is respect and trust. guiding that the negotiating brings as slow, several trips to the country shall be made in order to the successful close a deal. The Taiwanese are very hospitable. They usually invite diners, shows, and even tribes around the country. Keep in mind that this can be a negotiation tactic to weaken the position of the counterpart. South Korea. To access the Korean market, the figure to agent is very useful since it specializes professionals who manage 80% of Korean imports. To avoid communication losses, it's inconvenient to use an interpreter. The misuse of the language can be seen as an offenses as well as long periods of silence. Japan. In Japan, you can find many products and brands with worldwide recognition. It is necessary to have a novel offer with added value and that adapts to local taste. The Japanese are strict and rigid and making decisions and agendas. You should plan very well the presentation and the material that will be delivered to you. China. The Chinese are considered some of the best negotiators in the world. Their vision potential and the spectacular economic growth of the country supports them. A professional and trusted interpreter should be hired. Language, a key negotiation tactic for Chinese. You must be prepared to receive disproportionate proposals, answer many questions, have wide margin of negotiation, and several sessions to reach a consensus. Welcome to Asia. Thank you.